Assalamu alaikum everyone. How's everyone doing? I hope everyone's doing well. So I think apart from two of you guys, everyone else hasn't come to the previous one. So I have to kind of, redo a bit of the introduction that we went through last week. But there's no problem in that, because I was kind of intending to go through the introduction again anyway. So the title for today's discussion, I'll let everyone settle down. Everyone's so excited, they're coming closer, huh? So the title for today's discussion is How to See God. Okay, so I did mention last week, for all of you who didn't come, it's a bit of a clickbaity title, but we are actually going to discuss how to see God. Okay? So, once again, I'll introduce myself. My name is Hassan. People call me Hassan for short. I used to come to the University of Manchester, studied material science and engineering, and it's really good to be back. So thank you so much for the committee for organizing this event and discussion. So as we begin speaking about how to see God, it's very important to actually cover a few ground rules. Not so much rules, but lay the foundations to actually enter this type of exploration. And it's very much an exploration because I'm not going to sit here and just share with you some facts that I read somewhere, because you take in these facts and you process them the way you want, and it doesn't actually really help you so much in the pursuit of truth. So, this is a discussion, meaning that at any point you can stop me and literally, ask any question, say any remark. If there's something you like, something you don't like about this discussion, just go ahead and share it with me. And since this is a discussion, I feel like the most fruitful discussions I've ever had in my life are the type that are somewhat of an exploration. We are exploring together. So last week I gave an analogy, which I'll share again. We are on a journey in this uncharted territory, a jungle if you like, and the whole purpose is for us to discover something. There is no particular direction we're going into, and it's really about just discovering and seeing what there is to discover. So, since this is a journey, it doesn't make sense, for one group of us to go in one direction and the other to go a different direction. We should stick together, and we should kind of, see what we find and share these findings together to make this discovery very fruitful. In addition to that, the best types of explorations where we discover something are the ones where we have to sort of let go of the accumulations that we have carried in our lives. So these accumulations include our memories, our opinions, our belief systems, our likes and dislikes, and everything that kind of consolidates our character and who we think we are in this world. Now, this does seem counterintuitive because, this is an Islamic event. This is the AhlulBayt Society, so we just read Du'a Tawassul, and so we very much believe in the Imams. So why shall I leave my belief system aside if I'm trying to get closer to God, when the whole point of Du'a Tawassul is to, have them as an intermediate to God? And these are the type of interesting points that we will sort of highlight and get through. So in essence then, the inspiration of this very talk of how to see God comes from one of the sermons of Imam Ali. So Imam Ali was in conversation with his companion Tha'lab al-Yamani, and Tha'lab al-Yamani asked Imam Ali, and I'm paraphrasing, "Oh Ali, how do you see God?" Or in fact, it's, "Oh Ali, do you see God?" And Ali responded, how can I worship that which I do not see? And so he asked them, how do you see God? And his answer was, it's not that I see him through direct vision of my eyes. It's that the hearts see God through the authenticity of faith. And so this is the inspiration behind the title of How to See God, and this is the kind of discussion we'll be getting into. Another inspirational quote from Imam Ali, which I also mentioned last week, is لو انكشف الغطاء لما ازددت يقينا, which basically means that even if the veils have been lifted from our eyes, our certainty would not increase. So this is in regards to God. This is in regards to the discovery of God or the discovery of truth. So what that means is that Imam Ali has a level of certainty whether there is some form of cover or there is no cover. And so this is the type of position or experience we are trying to strive towards. Now, we spoke about this, and actually very interestingly, I'm going to use Zayn as an example here. He said something that was quite interesting, and he said that, Imam Ali is at a very high position, and there's, he's a ma'soom, he's an infallible, we can't, reach Imam Ali and stuff like that. But it kind of goes back to the groundworks that we laid, the foundations that we laid, which is to kind of leave our accumulations, our belief systems and everything aside. And the whole purpose of that is, if we hold a certain belief that Imam Ali is up there and there's no way for us to reach this position, then that is the problem that kind of takes place here. Our own belief system stands in our own way in the very discovery of truth, stands in our own way in the very level of certainty that we are hoping to achieve and be in. Okay, so I'll let you know that this can be a bit of an uncomfortable exploration because it is going to challenge our belief system. It's like, from a very young age, I've grown up to, believe that, so-and-so and religion, and I have to, believe everything that religion tells me to do, which is rightly so, but we kind of also have to see it in the right context. Okay? So going back to the analogy of our exploration, usually when we explore in this uncharted territory, this jungle, what we tend to do is we pick up our bags, we take all these different tools, we take food, rations, bandages, something, a compass, things that aid us in exploring. But in this particular scenario, in trying to discover the absolute truth, or into trying to discover God, the problem here is that anything we carry will get in our way. And so far, all I've basically done is I've tried to, re-emphasize laying these foundations. And I feel like before we can actually move on into this discussion any further, we have to kind of see if we are all on the same page, and we have to kind of clear out any knots or any, questions you may have in regards to this place before we can move on. Okay? So, what do you guys think? How is that looking so far? Seriously, we're all on the same page? Like I said, this is a discussion, and some of the committee members, they complain. They're like, don't bring a guy that's just going to lecture us for like a whole hour. So please, bring someone who's willing to have us speak as well. So please go ahead. Anything about the rules or the foundations that we laid that is somewhat ambiguous or that doesn't make sense.
Could you give a summary of what you just said? Because I'm not sure. I didn't understand a lot of it.
Okay.
Just
Okay.
quick
Yeah.
summarizing a sentence.
Quick. Yeah. That's the problem, because last week I spent maybe
Now,
the whole hour, because realistically, right? When we were trying to enter the discussion of how to see God, there's really all there is an introduction. All there is a preparation. All there is laying the foundations. We're very used to having, or learning things theoretically. And this is something I mentioned last week as well. So there are two ways in which we can perceive matters in this reality. So the first way is theoretical knowledge. The second way is experiential knowledge. So theoretical knowledge is if I share with you, some facts and figures, if I teach you some stuff about history, if you're sitting in a lecture theatre learning anything else, this is theoretical knowledge. Experiential knowledge is actually the direct knowledge of a situation, and it's more self-evident. Okay? And so the analogy I used last week is, let's suppose that I have a cup of tea, and I rip up some sugar, I put it in the tea, I stir the teacup, and I drink it. And if I then ask you, what does this tea taste like? What will you say?
like tea.
Huh?
Like tea.
So I just put sugar in the tea,
Oh,
stirred it. It's going to be sweet, right? So so far, right, we have this conviction that this tea is going to be sweet. But now that I give you this tea and you actually drink it, and you realize that actually it doesn't taste of anything, or in fact it tastes salty, right? Which form of experience has a higher level of conviction? Is it the theoretical, or is it now the experiential where you drank it? It's the experiential where you drank it. But then we also faced another problem, which is that even if we go ahead and drink it and taste that it's salty, or may not taste anything because we've got COVID, our senses have been tampered with, it's like, okay, cool, what does give us the conviction of what the tea tastes like? And then Zayn was like, just pour it down the drain, make a new one, right? But the reality is that theoretical is kind of the furthest away from the level of conviction and truth we can have. And then we've got experiential, which is a lot closer to conviction and truth. Okay? So going back to laying the foundations where I said that our accumulations, our belief systems, our thoughts, our opinions, our character, and everything that encompasses who we are as human beings, if we use that to interpret life, and if we then use that to try and explore reality to get to the ultimate and absolute truth, what happens is that we are trying to reach the truth theoretically. Because all of that which we have accumulated is on a theoretical basis. Do you see that? So right now, if I ask you something about yourself, tell me what you did, 3 weeks ago, what did you have for dinner, right? You could say, I've had some kebab or some chips for dinner. Now, for me, I could 100% believe you, right? And I could go ahead and, sorry, what was your name again? Ahmed. And I could go ahead and say, Ahmed had chips and kebab for dinner 100%. But in truth, this is only theoretical knowledge. You could be lying, or there could be 1,001 reasons why, that isn't the reality. Okay? So, with that, there's you telling me that you've had chips, but there's also me interpreting what chips is. Because I might call potato wedges chips as well. Okay? Yesterday we used a lot of analogies to do with Jaffa cakes, because someone brought Jaffa cakes and stuff like that. So, I think you've got Red Bull today. You're trying to fly, huh? So that's in essence, trying to lay the foundations and the groundworks. So does that make it clearer then? Because, you wanted a summary, which I don't think this is a summary either. It's quite long-winded, isn't it?
I think when you provided an example,
Yeah.
It's a very deep topic. Like last week, it did take us an hour or so to get to some conclusion of what we are talking about. But it's the fact that you have to put your opinions away, put your beliefs away, strip everything away. It does take time, and within minutes you won't be able to do so. So when we listen to Al-Saidy, we always tend to be thinking when he asks a question, so you don't have an answer. But then whilst he's talking, you're like, oh, okay, this is what I'm understanding.
Yeah. So in a way, this talk really, for someone who truly wants to discover the truth, this talk is useful because in a way it's kind of deconstructing all of that which gets in the way from realizing God. Okay? And I'll use another analogy. And this analogy is quite sensitive because, it can be interpreted as blasphemous in some way. But the truth is, each and every single one of us, when we get up and we pray to God, every single human being that prays to God has some unique interpretation or formulation of what God is. No two people actually have the same idea of God. Now, when you sit down and have a discussion like this, you can very much say the same things because we are using the same point of reference, right, to describe God. But really, this same point of reference, it could be the absolute truth, but our interpretations will alter this truth. Okay? So in a way, each and every single one of us is kind of praying to a different God. Do you like that or do you not like that? How does that make you feel when I say this? What comes to mind when I say this? So we are trying to, move all of that aside and really just get there directly, without the facade, without the same veil that Imam Ali is actually speaking about. لو انكشف الغطاء لما ازددت يقينا. Even if the veils have been lifted, I would not increase in certainty.
What does he mean by veils?
Exactly what we're trying to deconstruct. My name is Hassan and I really like food, and you can kind of tell because of the analogies I use to do with food. I like chips, I like salads, I like, all this food. And this is kind of what I'm describing to you is an image that has been formulated over the 26 years of my life. Okay? Another thing that I really enjoy is swimming. I really enjoy swimming. It doesn't show because I've gained quite a bit of weight, but I do actually enjoy swimming, right? But the same as the weight, that too is an accumulation. This body is an accumulation. My ideas, my belief system, it's all an accumulation. It's something I've picked up along the way of the exploration, which we call life. Okay? And so what happens is...
When you said you like swimming, that's theoretical knowledge.
Yes, so your interpretation of what I'm describing will be a theoretical knowledge. So, can we fully lean on that? Can we fully trust that with utmost conviction that I like swimming? You can't. Even to some extent, even if you pass by, I think there's this sports center, right? And they have a swimming pool there. Even if you pass by there maybe 3 times in 1 week, and every single time you pass by there, out of these 3 times you see me swimming there, can you say, I love swimming avidly? You still can't, because it could still be somewhat of a coincidence that you caught me. So theoretical knowledge is what keeps us entangled in all of these thoughts and processes. Okay? Now, another thing to mention about theoretical knowledge and theoretical accumulations is the level of value we attribute to all of these different things, like our opinions, belief systems. Last time we also used another analogy where we had a Jaffa cake or a biscuit, right? And then we used a phone. And then I said to, one of the brothers who isn't here today, I hope it's nothing personal, but I said to him, what's more important to you, the Jaffa cake or the phone? And then he said, the phone, obviously. The phone, lasts longer. I can get more pleasure out of the phone. Use pleasure as an example. So straight away we can deduce, that pleasure is meaningful to him, maybe. But for sure he said that the phone is more meaningful. It holds more value than a Jaffa cake. Then I said, and he said it with so much conviction that, I have full confidence that the phone is more important. So then I said to him, okay, but on the other side of the planet, someone who's starving and on the verge of dying, if you offer him both the Jaffa cake or the phone, which one is he going to choose? He's going to choose the Jaffa cake and the biscuit, right? I hope. Right? Unless you have something really crazy to upload on Instagram and you're like, I need that phone. Okay? So it's very situational, it's circumstantial, and no value that we hold theoretically is ever streamlined. So this is where we try to explore using our experience. Okay? And then as we kind of settle away from the attachment to the theoretical interpretations of life, we try to now use our experience to not interpret. We try to use our experience, direct experience, to realize life. Okay? To discover life. How's that? Are you good so far?
You guys can talk.
It's a discussion, like I said, so far, if I give you an image of what's happening, is, where someone's dropped us off in the middle of this jungle and you guys are just following me around. Why would you follow me around? That doesn't make sense. I'm just talking to you about how, because everything in a way you're perceiving is kind of theoretical, but, I am trying to drag it out of the theory box. And it's a bit weird because as I'm trying to do that, I'm giving you these thoughts and challenges in a way to let go of the theory side, but you're literally just following me wherever I'm going in the jungle, which we said can be problematic because I might lead you to a place that isn't so good. Okay?
Creating your own paths. You might go to the left or to the right, see what happens.
So I feel like, there's a few reasons why people aren't intervening. Maybe, you require a bit of time to let what I've just mentioned kind of settle in, right? Or maybe you need it to kind of, marinate, or whatever the word is. But
The topics you mentioned are very unusual and abstract. And using the example of the jungle, I'm definitely not following you. No.
you're lost somewhere else. You're about to eat a poison berry all on your own.
I think I'm I'll find the right way.
Yeah. But this is what the whole purpose is. The purpose is to kind of spark something within you and say, whoa, okay, this guy is saying a bunch of stuff, which makes sense or doesn't, right? But in essence, he's kind of made me notice, hopefully, that the stuff that I've carried all of my life so far also really isn't kind of, giving me that true conviction, the same way Imam Ali has that conviction. Okay? Now, I'll carry on by saying that we've realized that there's theoretical experience or knowledge, and then there's experiential experience or knowledge. Okay? And then we discovered that, there isn't so much certainty in any of this. There is no absolute certainty in theoretical or absolute. Now, in experiential. Now, when we do compare theoretical knowledge and experiential knowledge, we can say that experiential knowledge does lean more towards a higher level of certainty for obvious reasons, as mentioned with the cup of tea. Okay? Now, we want absolute certainty. We want absolute, unshakable, consistent certainty in our verification of exploration, at least. Okay? So clearly, relying on theoretical or relying on experiential, is not absolute. So what is that thing that is absolute? It's unchanging, it's consistent, and this is part of the next step that I really wanted to dive into in today's part 2 of how to see God. Okay? And I touched briefly upon it last week. In essence, everything that is, in the theoretical accumulation category, everything that is now also in the experiential accumulation category, both these categories, there is that which witnesses both these categories, irregardless of how much value there is attributed to different accumulations. Okay? So going back to the phone and the Jaffa cake analogy, the Jaffa cake holds a certain value, the phone holds a certain value. I said that there's no right or wrong in, how you value them. It's very circumstantial. But there is that which is witnessing the value. There is that which is witnessing that there is a Jaffa cake and, a phone that we are wrestling about. Okay? So we want to kind of explore that which is witness of these different attributes.
What do you mean by witness of attributes?
Okay. I like that question. So I'm going to ask you a question. Okay? And bear with me because it will link back to what we're saying. So if I ask you a question right now, are you aware? What will your answer be?
Yes.
Yes. You are aware. So we've discussed, theoretical verifications, we've discussed experiential verifications. Now we are trying to, kind of discover or realize the absolute verification that is uniform. How did you verify that you are aware?
Well, I was probably seeing more based on your experiential, experiential work before.
So what about, the experiential is verifying that you are aware in this moment?
Like I said, I see surroundings.
Anyone want to bump in and maybe have something to say?
Can you rephrase that?
Honestly, it's
A bit more simple.
a bit simpler, yeah?
What do you mean by aware? Aware of what?
Okay. So I asked, are you aware? And you said yes, right? And it's a no-brainer. It's kind of impossible for you to not be aware. Right?
Aware of your surroundings, basically.
So now what you're using is an object in some form, your surroundings, or a collection of different objects. Okay? And so I'm asking you, if it is an object, what is it, what particular object, is making you realize that you are aware? Has that been simplified enough for you, Zayn?
Yes. I'm trying to get you the answer now.
Are you Googling it?
No.
Oh, right.
I've just said messages.
Oh, right. Go for it. Try.
In that context, I say that, the surroundings around you.
Your surroundings.
Yes.
Okay. So your surroundings. So let's really explore this. Okay. So I've asked you, are you aware right now? And you say yes. And you say, I am aware because I can see my surroundings, because I can feel my surroundings, because I can smell, taste. So the senses are picking up information, and in a way that information is telling us that there is awareness, right? But what if, let's say, that your eyes are closed, okay? You rely on your eyes to realize your surroundings and that you are aware. What if your eyes are closed in this context? Okay, you can still hear, feel, and everything else. What happens here? Does that make you less aware? Or does that make you more aware? How does that change now?
The same would be less aware in one context. In these are the other senses, but I guess it's also maybe you're aware is also like you see your thought processing as well, like you're in the moment.
Yeah.
So like when you see something, you're processing what you see, etc. And that's what we say.
Yeah. So you are, in essence, to summarize, and correct me if I'm wrong, but to summarize, you're saying that the contents of my experience are giving away that I am aware in this moment, are verifying that I am aware. Right? So that's what you're saying. So does that mean that your awareness is directly dependent to the contents of your experience? You know, like, yeah, everything that your senses picks up, right? And also,
it's dependent also on like the processing of it as well, not just simply okay, I see you there, but obviously I realize you're a person, etc.
yeah.
I see not just some thing.
Okay, so let's say you see me here, and you don't realize that I am a person. There is no processing. Does that make you less aware?
I'd say so.
I don't think you would be less aware because you're still there. So it doesn't matter if all the senses are picking up. If one sense is picking up, that's your sense of being aware that you're either here, or that one sense being able to pick up that they can hear something talking. So like even if one picks up, one doesn't, you're still going to be aware of what's happening, kind of thing.
Yeah. So you're saying, you said something really interesting. You said that, it doesn't matter about the content. It doesn't matter about the light intensity. It doesn't matter what you've processed me as. You could process me as a human being or a donut. The fact is, right, that there is an awareness of whatever has been processed or perceived. That awareness is what we are interested in. Okay? It's very difficult to actually formulate this awareness into a name, a thought, or whatever. Awareness is like, we're using that as a word because, there's utility in giving this the word awareness. You look extremely confused. Tell me what's going on in your mind. You're thinking it through.
See, that's what I mean when I said at the start. Whatever he says, you won't establish it until he's talking about something else. Like, okay, now I understand what he's talking about there. It takes a bit of time to sink in because it's not a subject that you would think about usually, and it's not something that crosses your mind often. So when it does come up, it's very hard to straight away be like, click on.
I mean, probably it's not the best way to put it, but in a way you did like acknowledgement, but not.
Hey, what, sorry?
Like, when you say away, you did like acknowledgement, but I mean, it's probably not the best word, but.
You said conundrum.
Yeah, acknowledgement.
Acknowledgement, yes. So acknowledgements, okay? So far, I'll summarize, okay? So we've kind of, started from really the end of the branches, okay? And we're trying to really root it all back in slowly, right? So the ends of the branches is, I like the color blue, and I really like salads and Jaffa cakes, right? These are all just things that I've accumulated and picked up over time. Then there's different values that we attribute to the things that we have picked up over time. Okay? And then there's that which realizes that there have been different attributes and values to these different things that we have picked up. Okay? And then there's that which is a witness of all of this play that's taking place. The I like this and the I like that, and all of the belief systems. Now the reason why we are trying to root back into this is because I want to make it clear, or I want you to see it clearly, that whatever belief or thought or opinion you hold or attach yourself to is altering your reality or is shaping your reality in that particular way. If I really like the color blue and I'm in a very brightly green room, I may be slightly distressed and I may not really enjoy the vibe in a way. But if I really like the color green in that green room, I feel different. So in a way, my opinion that I hold dearly has somehow shaped my reality. Now, if we are coming back to witnessing or realizing God or the ultimate truth, any sort of opinion or belief system that we value will immediately warp the absolute truth. Now we can, however, decide to believe in it or not believe in it, but you're kind of still in the same place. You can believe something really strongly, or you can disbelieve something really strongly. They're both the same thing in this context. Because it is still contents of experience. And Zayn mentioned earlier, you are still there, regardless of the contents of experience. We are interested in that which is still there because it's consistent. Whether you're a believer in God or an atheist, you're still there. That awareness is still there. That is still consistent. That is what I'm inviting you to rest into, rather than what comes after that or what comes, within that, which is the opinions and stuff like that, This isn't so much a discussion of does God exist or does he not? Because if we have this discussion, we're not going to go anywhere, right? Because we're exploring in this jungle and someone can say, I want to go in this direction because this direction is 100% truth. Here is the evidence, here is this other evidence that this is 100% truth. And then someone else will come and say, no, here is this evidence and here is this evidence that this way is 100% truth. And you're not exploring anymore, you're still there. Right? Nothing new is being discovered. So we're trying to, reel it back and unwind a bit and go back to the very sort of source of reality, or which is allowing you to even perceive reality. That which is aware of all, regardless of what the content is.
The sisters are very quiet, so have you guys got any comments or questions that you want to ask? Oh.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So in your perspective, how do you see awareness relating it with God? How do you feel God in the way that you talk to God, or how do you feel that you're present there and you're aware from your own experience?
So
I think there's nothing right or wrong answer.
Yeah.
Because I think everyone they're just being afraid to maybe say something and they think that is wrong. But I don't think
Yeah, there is absolutely no right or wrong answer, 100%. Because we've just established there is that which is consistent, regardless of the inconsistencies and of our different answers. So you're asking me what is your experience in the way you perceive God? You see, this is, if I have a box, and in this box, there's the absolute truth. Like everything you've ever wanted is in this box. The absolute truth, without a doubt. And we actually kind of have this here, And I give you this box, right? One by one, you look at this box. Some of you may be overwhelmed, some of you may not be, or whatever. But each and every single one of you will take something different out of this box. So if I tell you, my experience, I can tell you like a story or something, but the truth is that you now have two options, or three options maybe. The first option is you believe in it. The second option is you don't believe in it. The third option is you're just confused. Nothing's happened, right? So this is the problem with, sharing my direct experience, because the tea that I thought is sweet could be salty. Do you see the dilemma that we have here? Okay? So this is why we're trying to reel it back into that which is consistent throughout all of us, and then start from there. Right?
Just a quick one. So we're trying to reel it back a little bit. So as a human, I think it's natural that when you do try to break things down, as you're breaking it down, you always have a little impact from your opinion, from what you think that is. So I can, like you said earlier, you can never interpret what that would look like. For example, the chips, you will never be able to get the correct form that he had it. Because it could be mash, it could be wedges, it could be normal chips, it could be crisp. So while we're breaking it down, everyone is going to have a different idea of every little step that we go through. So how do we all end up then at the same conclusion? Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I do speak gibberish sometimes.
No, I get it. So you're saying, how do we kind of end up at the same conclusion, even though everyone has a different interpretation or a different idea that comes along with it, right?
Exactly.
It's a very good.
Not to end up with the same conclusion.
Because we all believe God is God.
But can't we do that without ending up with the same conclusion?
That's what I'm asking.
So can you repeat that, please?
I said, why do we all have to end up with the same conclusion?
Yeah. Why do we all have to end up at the same conclusion? Okay. That's interesting. So, we're trying to reel it back, and you're saying that, along the way, everyone will have their different opinions and different things that kind of get in the way of discovering the conclusion. Okay? Now, let's be really, really sensitive with this. Or let's see how sensitive what's happening is. When you say conclusion, okay, in a way, you are now holding the expectation that there is an end goal. Okay? Now, there may or may not be an end goal, but the bottom line is the fact that we hold this expectation, it kind of gets in the way because we are looking for that. So does that not make our vision slightly more narrow? Does that not warp our perception of exploration? Okay? If you're in this jungle and you're only looking for bananas and you see apples, fruits, apples, strawberries and other things that you could also eat to survive, it's a problem if you only attach yourself to bananas, right? Because it's going to limit your possibility of survival now. Okay? So here we don't want to attach ourselves to any of these expectations, but we're kind of slowly trying to get there, but we will be kind of reeled back because of these small ideas. Everyone will have small ideas, and I want them to be laid out on the table so that we can see, hey, is this consistent, or does this serve us, or does it not serve us? Okay? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So we shouldn't aim to achieve anything, like having a conclusion. We should just walk through it and see what will happen.
For now, if as a concession, I'll give you an aim. Just for the purpose of communicating with you, I will give you an aim or a target to go for. And that aim is to realize that which is realizing.
Okay.
Our aim at the moment is to realize that which is realizing. Or the brother here used the word acknowledging.
Okay.
To acknowledge that which is experiencing. Or to acknowledge that which is perceiving the different contents of experience. You are feeling right now, you are touching, you're feeling your bottom against the chair, you're feeling the temperature in this room, you are feeling this, hearing the sound of my voice, you're seeing the intensity of the light. These are all, pieces of information in a way that are coming together. And then there is that which is knowing that there's this information that is being picked up. So what we are interested in is in that underlying knowing, regardless of your opinion or the idea or what conclusion you have in mind or what expectation you have in mind.
anyone not come in?
And by the way, we're like not even scratching the surface, I promise you. We're not even scratching the surface. We're still trying to deal with our attachments, our interpretations, our opinions, all of that accumulated baggage, right? You know, last week I said that leave all of your accumulations outside the door when you come in, the same way you take off your shoes when you enter the mosque. It's not going to go anywhere, you know. Your shoes will still be there, hopefully, you know, after you leave the mosque. Your opinions, your beliefs, it's all going to still be there after you leave. Okay? Yeah, that's if you have Yeezys or like something worthwhile, someone might take it, you know. But
So what are you left with then, if you need all that stuff?
you tell me. You tell me, what are you left with? Describe to me the nature of that which is left. When there is no Ahmed and all of its accumulation, what is there? Zayn said something interesting earlier. He said, it doesn't matter, you know, what's taking place. You are still going to be there, isn't it? If there is no Ahmed, you're still there. Ahmed is kind of accumulated along the way.
You picked up your characteristics, you picked up the way you behave as you grew up, but then when it comes down to it, if you strip all your characteristics, your beliefs, your opinions, you're still you. And then what I think Brother Hassan is trying to do is put all that aside. How do you believe in God? How do you see God? Is that correct?
In a way.
Yeah.
In a way. In a way. So, how do you feel then? Or tell me, what's happening?
I'd like to say that counting part, but other things like when you try something, so on the way you'll sort of build another, like,
Yeah. There's another development of a new opinion, a new things. But there is the awareness of that new development, isn't it? Do you see that? You know, in this uncharted jungle that we are exploring together, I discover this completely new fruit that I have never ever seen. It doesn't take long until it's something that becomes familiar, isn't it? And we might even depend on this fruit. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with developing the ideas. There's nothing wrong with holding the belief systems. There's nothing wrong with how we value different attributes and things in our experience. But it's about that which is realizing the different developments, that which is realizing all of these changes in the movement of life. Because that which is realizing is unmoving. It doesn't matter how life goes up and down, whether you're sad, happy, you're still there. It's all still being realized. If I ask you, what is that thing? It's pointless. It's a pointless question. Because it is that which realizes all things. Which acknowledges all things. Okay? So how are we for time?
Oh, we're still good.
We're still good, yeah?
I was just wondering, at the beginning you said something along the lines of us seeing Imam Ali as this infallible, perfect being is holding us back from achieving sort of our greatest potential because we're thinking never measurable to that. And so you took his saying of, is it from the
Najib al yes.
The unveiling and
Is that not contradicting?
your interpretation of that is we need to completely let go of all of our
But doesn't it make sense that we are an amalgamation of our experiences, beliefs, and the more we go through life, the stronger our belief system gets because of that. And like to me personally, the AhlulBayt are this group of, yes, infallibles that we'll never be able to measure up to, but Allah Himself has deemed in that Quran that that's not the point in the rest of us, that we're meant to make mistakes, learn from them, and inshallah become better Muslims because of that. And so, to undergo this sort of Hegelian dialectic, like completely swinging one side, thesis and antithesis, that's a little bit counterproductive, in my opinion, just because you're either going the direction of AhlulBayt, which is unattainable, or you're going the direction of shaitan, which also is inshallah not something that any of us are aspiring to. So doesn't it then make sense that we go through the synthesis way, that we go through what every human goes through, we go through the trials and tribulations of life with the Quran as our skeleton, as our guide, and do actually form our own opinions, thoughts and beliefs. Just wondering what your thoughts were on that.
Yeah. So I'm going to try and summarize what you've said, and do correct me if I'm wrong. So in a way, you're saying, I mentioned that Imam Ali, which most of us see as infallible, is an example to strive towards. Okay? And then I used Imam Ali as I quoted him in the beginning when I said, about the Nahj al-Balagha sermon, when he was asked, "Oh Ali, do you see God?" He says, "How can I worship that which I do not see?" Or when there was another account where he said, "Even if the veils had been lifted, I would not increase in certainty," right? But then at the same time, I also said that our belief of Imam Ali being up there can get in the way of becoming like Imam Ali, or get in the way of discovering the ultimate truth or discovering God. How does that make sense? Is there not like a contradiction in that? Is that your question, in a way?
Yeah.
What else is missing with that?
It's just the principles of the thing. I'm not sure I agree.
Yeah.
That you need to completely devoid yourself of feeling, emotion, and experience
Yeah.
in order to see the absolute truth of Allah.
Yeah.
You said it might be shirk, that we all have our own interpretation of God. I actually think it's a benefit in some way, because Imam Ali also said, learn your religion, don't inherit it.
Yeah.
We've come to our own conclusions of what Allah is. We have the foundations, we have the principles of, the absolute truths on what to believe, but everything else is up to us to find our own balance with. And so, to devoid yourself of all sort of experience and to try and sort of completely get rid of that and start blank, as if you are a masoom, that seems a bit counterintuitive. Because to be sort of human is to experience.
Yeah.
I was going to say, when you said that about learning religion, I feel like when because quite often we think of recognition as baggage on the way, it's actually that in a way could be something, not inherited in the sense directly from parents, but picked up on someone doesn't in that sense. So in a way, by trying to build us to kind of start from profession and start, okay, this is the truth, because let's say we learned about God, someone else learned about God, then obviously just because they've never seen it, they're going to get the only truth. It will help them also, but you can say that, but in that context, you have to like this and sort of universal thing where we can start. I don't know what's
Yeah.
I was just going to say, just like the sister said, the Quran is basically our foundation, and like the Ahlulbayt today, every Imam, every Masoom, they always say, do not inherit a religion, learn it. So whilst you've got this foundation, and what we're discussing right now is the Quran is our foundation, and we need to go to that foundation and see what the roots of that foundation. So everywhere within the Quran, we need to, not everywhere, but within the Quran, the idea in general, it's a speech from God to us. So, in a sense, we shouldn't just focus on the sayings of AhlulBayt, because they are a guide for us to reach Allah. So we should think of our own path, our own way to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So yes, we've got AhlulBayt who will guide us, who will give us the right paths, and they went on the right path to see Allah. But their path is always going to be different to ours. My path is going to be different to Ahmed's, is going to be different to yours, is going to be different to Hassan's. So, in a sense, when we strip all of the belief system that we have, we'll be able to walk in a clearer direction towards something that we don't actually see. If anybody understands what I'm saying.
No, but the sister is saying that you clearing everything away can be counterintuitive because it's there for you to direct you on the right path, isn't it? Right? So that's, and then the brother said, yes, however, we are trying to put that which we have been given aside because everyone is doomed to interpret it differently and uniquely, which can get in the way. Right?
Yeah, and also, yeah, so
yeah?
and also, in a way, obviously, we're presuming that is right, but let's say, quite often we've been told that we need to come to ourselves like it's right. So, rather than just, okay, quite a majority of people, let's say, quite a lot of people, they just say because it's been narrated.
Yeah.
They say, okay, this is what I've been told.
Yeah. So in a way, you like putting things aside because it gives you the ground to discover for yourself. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, and also like, they do like your own verification. Okay, this is right, not just.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you're not just
okay.
on the bandwagon following.
Okay, there is a God.
Yeah. But the sister's also saying that we're not trying to do that because the religion itself says that one should not just inherit it from their parents. It's to be learned. Right? So are we seeing the dynamics here? Okay? So this is very interesting. Because the sister said that, these teachings are all there to provide us with the tools to go through different trials and tribulations. Why should we neglect them? Why should we put them aside? Yes? Okay? So when there's I'll tell you the story. There was this one man who didn't believe in God. People came to him and they always asked him, why do you not believe in God? He said, it's pointless. Like, it doesn't change anything about my life. Why should I believe in God? And so the person who asked him, watch, one day he will believe in God. He had this conviction. This man happened to be a sailor. On his boat, he was sailing, he was on a fishing trip, and then there was a massive storm. Maybe it wasn't Storm Yunus, maybe it was Storm Ja'far or something else, right? There was a massive storm taking place, and he thought, that's it, I'm gonna die. And he was like, oh my God. So he's trying to reach out to something that he does not believe in. Okay? Now people use this story to, in a way, say that God does exist. But we're not having this discussion as to whether God exists or not. We're here to literally find out directly, okay? The bottom line is that when you are going through a trial or tribulation, you will find that you are actually in a point where you have actually put aside your accumulations more than any other point in your life. When you are really distressed and something has happened in your life and it's just broken you down, you're on your knees and you're praying to God. Okay? Some people may not do this praying to God. Some people may just go out on a walk. Some people may try to run it off. Everyone has something different. But in essence, they're trying to run away from these accumulations. Okay? When you are truly in sincere prayer to God, right? In that true sincerity, are they really accumulations? Are you worried about your exam tomorrow? Or a particular quote of someone? Or something that you've memorized in the Quran even? Maybe not, because you're so trying to reach something that you know is beyond you, which, by the way, you is that accumulation. Which is why in the beginning we're saying leave it aside for a moment, because if you truly leave it aside, there is only that which is truly sincere. Does that answer it?
Just a quick one. So, when it comes to trying to reach God, well, I think that's a personal thing to me. I don't know if everybody agrees with it. The more you try, the harder you think about it, the harder you try within that moment, you will lose your path. So, in a sense, I think it's easier to wait for the moment to come itself rather than trying to reach that moment to get that connection. Because sometimes you don't. So, for example, if you read a certain verse that really hits your heart, it's not every single time that it's going to deeply affect you within your heart. It's certain moments where, like you said, you're fully sincere. But the harder you try, wouldn't push your mindset and your thoughts away from the path, wouldn't it sway you?
So, try right now then.
You can't do it all the time.
So what is this trying then? What does that mean? What are you trying? You know, you're trying to reach God. Like describe that to me. What do you do so that I can say, you know what, this guy is trying to reach God?
That's a communication.
Okay, so if I am in a cinema and I'm trying to watch this movie in 3D, but I'm not wearing, or if I'm watching a 2D movie and I'm wearing 3D glasses and I'm not willing to let go of these glasses, you know, as long as I have these glasses on, I can try my best to look at it in 3D, but it just won't happen. So this is why we put it aside. Then there is no such thing as trying anymore. So there is, going back, okay, to that which, you know, acknowledges reality, you know. This is not a discussion to tell you that what you believe in is not useful or useful. It's not a discussion to tell you that you should believe in this instead. It's not about agreement or disagreement. It's just about realizing how it's been developed in your life. That's all we're trying to do. So I'll give you another analogy. There's that projector, right? So this projector will shine a picture on the screen. Okay? Or going back to the same analogy of the cinema. You are in a cinema and this projector is at the back. We've all seen it at the back of the wall. It's shining a moving image on the screen. There is sound. There's a story that's taking place. There's movement, colors. We watch this movie and all of a sudden we are in this movie. We are a part of it. When something happens, we feel sad. When something else happens, we feel happy. Right? All this talk is about is to just realize that this is just a story that's being projected on the screen. I'm not saying to hate it, to love it, to dislike it, to anything. It's just to try and realize that. Because when that realizes, naturally, things become clearer. Okay? We are interested in the very light that is doing the projection. Okay? And I'll back that up or reinforce that with another analogy. If you have a pool of water, right? You know, I almost wasn't able to come today because there was this huge flooding in Shrewsbury where I'm staying at the moment. Like literally, it was up to, you know, over a meter. I thought I was gonna swim to you guys. But really, I was really happy to find out that there was a back entrance, you know, through the...
We've been right here.
See, I love this. I love this guy. He's connecting two and two together. So I was almost not able to make my way here. Okay? And I kind of lost my point now. No worries. This is the problem where you're trying to, you know, rely so much on This is actually evidence that theoretical knowledge is inconsistent. What was I saying before that? Please remind me, guys. Before that, what was I saying?
The projection.
Yeah, the projection. So this is another analogy. So, you know, I mentioned the pool of water and I remember the flood. But anyway, let's imagine that there is this pool of water. Okay? And you're trying to see what's down at the bottom of this pool of water. Okay? And there's a lot of ripples on the surface. Now, if I come and I bring my hand and I try to calm the water down so that I can see at the bottom, is that helpful at all? Exactly. So we kind of just have to leave it and let it be. Right? We have to let it be until it settles and then it becomes clear. It becomes as clear as it can be. Right? But this settling down, right, we are interested in once we are realizing that which is even moving the water to begin with. Or going back to the projection analogy, realizing that there is that which is making or creating the different movements on the screen. Okay? So, let's hear it back from you guys. Do you like these analogies? I love them. I haven't heard anything from you, bro.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
He's like, when is this going to finish? I need to leave.
You didn't understand the analogy.
You didn't understand it? Which one?
Yeah, cool.
The water one.
Yeah, the last one we explained.
So in a way, okay, we are trying to discover the absolute truth. However, we have established that everything, or not everything, actually everything that we accumulate, as long as we attach ourselves to that, it will warp our reality in a way. So if I am in the cinema and I'm watching this movie and I'm watching the movement of the different, activities on the screen, I am, very involved and entangled in the story. I feel the emotions, I am part of it. But then all of a sudden you take a step back and you're like, whoa, this is just a movie. It's a good tactic for when you're watching a horror movie and you don't want to get too scared. If you're really, really into it, you're like, oh, it's very scary. But then when you just realize it's just a movie, it's just a movie, it's just a movie, you never actually get into the movie, right? So that helps us, that realization gives us clarity. And clarity is where you don't need to do anything anymore, which links then to the pool analogy. When you have this pool, there's ripples on the surface. If I come to try and physically stop these ripples, I'm only creating more ripples. I get further away from clarity, which also links back to what Zayn said about, I can't try, I can't force it, But we also don't want to force it when we are really attached to an accumulation of thoughts and beliefs and stuff. Okay? Are we there?
that moment where you're tested to such an extent that all of your things seem to just fall away, and you're left with what is sort of like the epicenter. And you're saying that that is what's important. Yes?
Yeah?
So, that in itself, if you kind of think of it as. Sorry.
Oh, no, sorry.
Okay. If you think of it as sort of a core, then wouldn't you say that because I think we're talking about the same things but just different aspects of the same thing. So these experiences and these accumulations, as you said, over time you have sort of smaller profound moments that add to this core belief. And then once you are tested, because you're going to be tested, as it's said in the Quran, it's going to happen, then that eureka moment is going to be that much more stronger if you do sort of take into account the small things, the sludge of life, that slow downward or upward struggle. And then once you are tested to such an extreme, then your faith is going to be that much stronger, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. So faith is a very interesting word. Okay? So faith is very interesting. Believe and faith, they are two different things. We want to kind of touch upon that in a second. But before I get into that, I want to discuss this whole concept of test. We are in this test. We are constantly being tested. Inna ma'al usri yusra. Right? When you are going through a trial or a tribulation and you are being tested, what is this test really doing? Okay? So let's say, for instance, I lie a lot. I talk a lot of nonsense and crap to different people. I lie a lot. For those of you who are Iraqi, you will probably notice this a lot in the community. I will assure you that. Just lying. Now, this is, one of these things that is not something that you're allowed to do. It's a sin in Islam, right? Now, when you are lying, in a way, you are being presented with opportunities where you can lie. And so it's a test to see if you are going to lie or not. Okay? So this is like an example of a test. This is if you use your, the test perspective, if you like, in all of this. What happens is that when you eventually pass the test and you realize, you know what, I'm not going to lie. Right? I'm not going to lie. Have you accumulated something new, or have you actually let go of something? Have you constructed something new within this pool of accumulation of what we think we are, or have you actually taken something away? Can you answer me that?
I'd say the former, but I think it's the latter. We think
You say
it's just a different interpretation.
Yeah, it's a different interpretation. It's
Because you might get punished for the line, and if you do get punished or something bad happens as a result of that line, then you're like, based on that experience, I'm not going to do that again. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, so let's go back to ground zero. You have a baby, and the baby is crawling. It's just learned how to crawl around the room, and it's just, discovering reality, sees a remote control, puts it in the mouth, is trying to see, is this edible or is it not, it's trying to discover things, right? Will this baby lie to you? It's not going to lie to you. So what? Lying is something we learn, right? It's something that we pick up over time. Kids are so honest. You really want to find out what happened in the room, you leave all the adult society, go to the 5-year-old kid that's sitting in the corner. They'll tell you what's happening, right? It's the accumulations that actually teach us how to sin in the religious context. Right? Whereas the fitrah is pure. We're actually, in a way, in Islamic context, we're trying to re-establish the fitrah. Right? Now, I can, sister, I can shape and formulate these words in the most Islamic way possible, which may, warm your heart a bit and make you feel like, yes, this is on the right tracks. But if I'm sitting in a church and, there's loads of Christians, I could formulate it in Jesus quotes and what the Bible has to say. Judaism, vice versa. I could formulate it in the language that, will link closest to what makes you feel comfortable, right? But the bottom line is, it doesn't really, matter so much. In the microcosm, it does matter. Through your own eyes, it really matters. And I respect that and I appreciate that. But in the macrocosm, it doesn't really matter so much anymore. Okay? And we are trying to realize these different interpretations and these different perceptions. Okay? So, does that make sense? We love to accumulate things, and we think that accumulation means that we have more, and because we have more, it unlocks more of an experience, which to some extent is true, but we're not trying to unlock more of the experience. We're trying to clarify the experience, because the truth is seeping through and through the entirety of the experience, which we fail to see because of our own intervention, of our beliefs, thoughts, and opinions. I think we'll end it there. Zayn is on his feet.
Oh, no.
Huh?
You've still got time, so if you want to say carry on talking about
I know. I guess we'll use the remainder of the time, to answer any more questions, or if any of you guys need to leave, that's also fine.
Any questions or anything to say with regards to the talk itself, what it made you think, or how it made you feel, or what you acknowledged from it?
So I would just say accumulation
Sorry, bro.
So like a good accumulation of like something, let's say good glass or whatever, which
Yeah.
most of you.
Yeah. And I'm not saying to, fight against the accumulation. I'm not saying to, love the accumulation. I'm just inviting you to just observe it as it is. What's your name? Qasim. Qasim is going to have different feelings, towards different aspects of life and experiences in life. I'm not asking you to hate these different aspects or love these different aspects. It's just to observe it and to realize that this is what Qasim is doing. Qasim is doing it. Because once we realize that, we rest deeper into that which is consistent regardless of what Qasim decides to do in life. And I'm going to wrap this up to tell you why we are trying to do this. We are trying to do this because if you have, Pablo Picasso's painting, and you are looking at this painting and you're truly, truly trying to understand this painting, if you're being Qasim, or Hassan or Zayn or anyone or Ahmed, if you're trying to be you, are you going to fully grasp and understand Pablo Picasso's painting? Or will you understand it if you leave yourself aside and really try to be Pablo Picasso instead? The latter makes more sense, right? You're trying to really see how he sees life, think how he thinks, really try to encompass all of that, right? Now, the absolute truth is consistent. It was there yesterday. It's here today. It will be there tomorrow, regardless of what Qasim or Zayn or Hassan decides to do in life. Isn't it? So, in the same way that we try to match the attributes of Pablo Picasso to understand his painting, we are trying to match the attributes of the truth, the absolute and ultimate truth, or God. so that we can understand God or experience God or understand and witness the ultimate truth, which is the consistency, which is the ever-presence regardless of the different activity that takes place in experience.
Any more questions or thoughts? This is the reason for lunch. Do you have anything you'd like to add to the talk or any questions you'd like to ask?
Yeah, I'll just mention one more thing as well. I remember when you said about lying, the brother there, he mentioned that we're afraid to lie because we might get punished later in Akhirah. But sometimes we forget what's the effects of it
Yeah.
to ourselves in that moment and to others. Or
Sorry, I meant to say we get punished in the dunya. So if I lied to my mom, I'll get slapped, you know, that kind of thing. So I won't do it again. I didn't mean the after, but yeah, that's fine.
Another thing as well about how like this dunya is like it's like an exam for you, not exam, but like you're testing about everything. But in reality, whenever we test, we have to go so deep in it and we see what is something that we have to change inside of us to cure this thing, or what we can do to change these thoughts to see it in a different perspective. So I think testing is coming for us to see something different or to cure something that never been healed before inside of us, or that we've taught maybe differently or in a wrong way when we were kids about this is right and wrong, but we never like experienced it. But testing, when we're now adults, we should think about it more in a deep way and cure all of these like dark things inside of us. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So tests are there. You know, people think that, you know, I'm not going to generalize, but a lot of people think that, you know, religion or Islam or any religion is this like, you know, authoritarian, you know, state of living, right? Or experience where God's going to, you know, shoot you into hell or heaven if you're going to, you know, do a good thing or a bad thing, right? It's because of the analogy of the test, you know, that we are constantly being tested and so on. But realistically, these tests are there for us. And there is an immediate consequence when we fail or pass this test, in essence, right? And that's, you know, reinforcing what their sister just said about this. Okay? So I think, you know, I will quickly plug in, you know, that I have an Instagram. It's called The Spiritual Walks. I also have a YouTube channel. It's also called The Spiritual Walks. And, you know, there I have a lot of content about this kind of stuff. I will be there next week as well. So for part 3, if you're, you know, I'm going to judge you if you don't come. No, joking. But we will continue this discussion and exploration. And if you guys have any question, you can either reach me online or, you know, feel free to ask me after this.